time was April 8th, 2021.
Every Jaegerist, every person that was riding with Eren, I feel like we were slapped in the face.
Don't like it. Disappointed. I'm sorry. Don't like it. I don't like it. This is not a good ending to me. I'm not happy or satisfied with it. Oh well.
I don't know what to say, everybody. Yeah, I'm not sure what to say.
We honestly expected more from the ending, like answering some of the most important questions.
That's it?
Keep moving forward until my enemies are destroyed, just pretending. Because I was born into this world, just pretending. None of it matters. It has no impact.
A part of me feels like this wasn't what Isayama had planned. This felt like it unraveled so many things that have been put in place for years now with this manga. Like, how are we still fighting? Did I read this wrong?
I would have rather not had Eren's point of view at all than the absolute warm garbage that this was. Why did Eren sacrifice everything to literally leave the world in a worse place than it was in to begin with?
I don't think Isayama knew who Eren was. At the end of the day, Eren ended up just being what the plot needed him to be.
The fact that Ymir was in love with the king, she really loved the king despite the fact of everything that was done to her, and they're still fighting. Nothing Eren did accomplished anything.
A lot of people use that interview, Isayama doesn't like characters who lie. But Eren ended up being used as just a foil for everybody else. He was set up to make Armin better, or Mikasa's arc, or whoever else.
It feels very unsatisfactory. Very unsatisfactory. I'm very just like, like this is how it ends?
With an ending like this, there are just so many pointless scenes then. There are so many pointless scenes.
I don't even know if I want to be doing this, dude. Like, it's terrible.
I feel very betrayed that we've all been speculating based on this promised last panel.
If somebody said, what is the worst ending you could possibly make? This would be it. It's like they took a list of things that the community hated or would hate and made that ending. This is what Attack on Titan Chapter 139 is.
I have a lot of thoughts. I think I will need to come back and gather my thoughts.
I asked for one thing. There's one thing I wanted from the ending. It's bare minimum I needed for me to enjoy this series, for me to be able to move forward. I only needed one thing, and that was Eren's character arc not to be wasted. For me to feel satisfied with his arc. Let me tell you, I do not feel satisfied.
This is the story, guys. At the end of the day, this is the story, you know? But I'm not a fan of it anymore. Not a fan.
The Attack on Titan ending. The fumbling begins. The ending was so fucking bad.
If this really is an ending that Isayama is proud of, why did he portray living under a fascist regime like Mali as despicable and emasculating, only for our surviving heroes to find themselves living under their own fascist regime?
We couldn't just finish the other 20%? Oh, that's so cold and so heartless. Yes, but now the war is going to go on. What, are we going to get a sequel series out of this? Nobody wants it. Please don't.
This is just terrible, dude.
What did I just read?
What the fuck did I just read? I don't know what I just read. I really don't. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my final Attack on Titan related video. Unless, of course, something big comes up, you know. If you guys want my commentary, so on and so forth. You know, if enough people want it, I will. I'm a giving woman. I will give what the crowd desires. But as we know it, as of right now, this will be my final video related to Attack on Titan. But without further ado, let's get on to your scheduled programming. So, who wrote Attack on Titan? Now, I know what you're thinking. Browns, what a silly question. It was obviously Hajime Isayama who wrote Attack on Titan. But in today's video, I would like to challenge that perspective. We know Hajime Isayama created Attack on Titan, but something must explain why chapter 139 reads like it is from an entirely different manga. So I'll repeat myself. Who wrote Attack on Titan? Well, let's see if we can find out. In today's video, as promised, we'll be scouring through a bunch of Isayama's interviews from anywhere from 2013, 2019, 2018, 2017, all the way up till 2021. And let me just warn you guys, I have never seen someone contradict themselves so much ever in my life. So the question has to be asked, how could this ending be so bad? And from that question, we must ask, why is this ending so bad? From there, how did the author responsible for the biggest payoffs, the best explained, set up, and solved mysteries, write this? How could the author who gave us chapter 131 give us chapter 139? How could the author who gave us this panel give us this panel? So, another misconception you might be thinking is this is a video of me bashing Isayama. That is not the case. The purpose of this video is to see if we can determine, after looking at his interviews, if the ending was in fact changed, and if so, why? And then towards the end of the video, we'll even get into the how the ending was changed. Once we're done going through the interviews, we're going to be left wondering who is responsible for this objectively unsatisfying ending that we got. We have 4 possibilities. The first one being Isayama wrote it himself. It was planned all along. The second possibility, his editor wrote it, or just gave too much advice. The third possibility, the characters themselves wrote it. The ending was set, but the characters' decisions could slightly change it. Or the fourth possibility, we, us fans, wrote it. Or our opinions online influenced Isayama to a degree where he felt he needed to change the ending. Okay, so before we can talk about our 4 possibilities, let's go over some facts. In 2018, we received the final panel of Attack on Titan. We received this panel unsolicited, nobody asked. Isayama just showed us, hey, by the way, this is the last panel of Attack on Titan. This is how this series ends. A father holding a child saying, you are free. This is obviously not the final panel. This isn't even close to it. In fact, this panel is shoved into the manga at a weird spot with not really a clear explanation as to why it's there. Is it ironic? What is it supposed to mean in the spot in chapter 139 where it's placed? Because it was supposed to be the last panel. There's also some hopium copium for, the anime, because as I was going through millions of interviews, I stumbled upon some interviews from the screenwriters of Attack on Titan, the anime, and they do have some freedom of what to include and what not to include in the anime. So the scenes they don't view as important, they can omit, which they've done previously, especially with season 3. Mikasa's voice actor and the screenwriter of Attack on Titan both assumed that Historia was a very important character. We all assumed that Historia would play a bigger role in the endgame of Attack on Titan, which she didn't. So we're under the impression that something had to have changed here. It's just too perfectly set up that Historia was Ymir's direct parallel, and that something regarding Historia and Ymir was supposed to happen. Not Ymir and Mikasa. Something more was also supposed to happen with that baby for the endgame, which personally brings my head back to the baby that we saw in the supposed last panel that wasn't, in fact, the last panel. I believe it was changed. Our possibility number 1 is that Isayama wrote the entire series himself, and it was planned out since the beginning. Since before he went to Kodansha, he knew exactly how the story would end. Let's look at Isayama's interview with Bloomberg in 2020, July, or June, whatever. I think it's interesting, first screenshot, third paragraph, that it says, in Japan, the mangaka has almost absolute control. Now, I don't know what kind of word you'd like to zero in on, but the word that takes my attention is absolute. The word that might catch your attention is almost. So, some things they can't control. If you're looking at the almost, that means some things they can't control. That means some editors could have da-da-da-da or whatever, right? But I'm looking at has absolute almost absolute. That's a lot. To say that somebody has almost absolute control. I just wanted to start off there. Also, I think it's interesting that he doesn't consider Attack on Titan to be that realistic, judging by what he says in the second screenshot there. Make sure you're pausing, guys. Let's take a look at these from this interview. Make sure you pause. Go ahead. I just find what he says in this so interesting. Everything is planned out. Everything is planned out. He wants to make it convincing. Everything is planned out. But there's something unpredictable. Okay? Just remember that he said that, alright? Remember that he said everything was planned out. Okay? Because he says it again, but then he contradicts himself a few times. Now, we've all seen this interview. Here we go. Some indecisiveness. He's constantly thinking about rewriting things. So now we have Isayama saying that he always planned this ending. And he's a little bit indecisive. Let's keep going. So this is another interesting one. Pay attention to that last line there, right? You're supposed to be pausing. Isayama, this is in 2016. He thought he was a good writer. Now, he said he was bad at drawing, but he was very confident in his writing skills. Now, how do we go from that to him in 2019, being just so indecisive? Something to think about. But if he's such a good writer and he's so confident in his writing, 2016 was halfway through the story, barely even halfway. What happened to his mind the closer it came to wrap the series up? I'm wondering what made him so insecure by the time we get closer and closer to the finale. Now, this is a part of that same interview. I want you to pay attention to the last couple paragraphs. So until recently, he wanted to create this dark ending similar to The Mist. So in 2016, that's basically the turning point, apparently, when he decided, hey, this isn't going to end that dark anymore. I owe something to my fans. So at this point in 2016, he decided that he owed us a concise, clear, well put together, satisfying ending. But that's not what we got, is it? Let's move forward. So while looking at this one, remember that 2018 he showed us that final panel, right? The baby and the father. You are free. He says in this interview, and this takes place in 2019, a year after, right? Well, first of all, look at that first paragraph. I was just thinking about money. That's interesting. Hold on to that thought. You guys have seen my other video, Isayama becoming a slave to the paycheck. Maybe he's always just been one. Anyways, just a year ago, he released that panel, right? The last panel. And he says, when asked, the story is coming to an end, isn't it? He says, I've been proceeding based on how I want to draw the last scene. Of course, there are many precursors to the main goal, and taking each step in line with them is extremely challenging. There are also parts that have to balance out, which is tricky. Just one more time like this, singing leading up to the goal, but I feel I really should keep going for what I've always wanted to draw for closure. So he's wishy-washy in this moment. In this moment, he doesn't know how he wants to conclude the story. He doesn't know how he wants to arrive at that last panel with the baby. He doesn't know how he's going to do it. He keeps redrawing it over and over again. How then does he know exactly how the story's going to end? How then was this all planned? It's not making sense. It's not. And he said it in 2016 that it was planned, and he said in 2020 that it was planned. Yet here he is, 2019, saying he doesn't know. He keeps changing it. Then look at the bottom paragraph. When he was asked what the meaning of drawing a manga is, he said, his famous quote, wanted to hurt the readers, da-da-da-da. But I'm not understanding how he wanted to hurt us with this dark ending, yet flipped his mind to this, quote, happy ending, but an ending that's, quote, happy, but makes no sense. How does that not also hurt the readers? So is his goal still to hurt the readers with this ending? I'm not so sure. And unfortunately, that's never cleared up. A couple things from this one I thought was interesting was points 7 and 8. I just thought 7 was interesting because the ending defenders will always bring up how Attack on Titan is so realistic when Isayama himself often contradicts that notion that it's realistic. I don't know. I think I get what he's saying here. Like, the Titans themselves aren't realistic, like Titans being real, but what they represent is a very realistic thing, like a great threat making people feel trapped or something like that, you know, and then how Titans were never the real evil, it was just the people who weaponized them, so on and so forth. And then what he says in point 8 is so weird. It is unlikely I can be a nice person at the end, since my manga depicts violence and so on and so forth. It's like, sir, are you going to give us the dark ending or not? What it's sounding like to me is this guy struggled with himself to the bitter end, whether or not he was actually going to conclude the story the way he wanted, the way he intended to, or whether he was going to give us a flower bed, happy rainbows and sunshines ending, the one that we got, 139. That doesn't make that much sense, but our characters that we love so much get to live, right? Because originally we were going to get a The Mist ending. You saw it yourself. We were going to get a The Mist ending where everyone dies except the protagonist. Or just everyone dies, period. So this interview, 2017, I think it's a pretty good one, you know, very competent Isayama in this one. I just find it interesting how he says, after reading so many opinions on the internet, I now feel a big responsibility to conclude this story properly. It's my opinion that this is the point, 2017, where he fixates on what the people on Reddit are saying, what the people on Twitter are saying, what the people here, and here are saying, because previously to this, all we had was, oh yeah, I wasn't expecting it to get so popular. Now I might not do my dark ending like planned, but, you know, I feel like he was still competent in himself, but I feel like towards the 2020 era, you know, he gets a little, you know, I feel like then he starts relying more on the editors and the opinions. But we're going to get to that section. We're still on figuring out if Isayama himself is to blame for this ending. And I know you're probably thinking, like, why didn't you put this all in order? You came here for the chaos, so here you have it. It's going to probably get confusing, I know. So I don't know if you want to take notes while you watch this. I don't know if it's that serious, but go ahead. This is continuing the previous screenshot. This is the same interview. This one is really interesting, right? Because here he says he's progressing towards the ending that had been set before, meaning he's writing as if it's going to end in the way he originally intended, yet the ending has changed. But he somehow contradicts himself in this interview by, like, alone. From the perspective of the film's main character, it's hard to say that it is a happy ending. The original ending for Shingeki no Kyojin originally went in that direction. His answer, by the middle of the film, it's B-list, da-da-da. At the conclusion, the main character's deep, intrinsic beliefs of what's right to corrupt the main character himself, leading him to act in contrary ways. What the audience believed to be correct is also flipped upside down at the beginning. I spent a while analyzing how to imitate the style for SNK. So, what does that mean? That means that in this movie, which I've never seen, the main character acts in contrary ways, right? So if he wasn't going for the Mist ending, why does Eren contradict literally everything he set out to do? Why does he contradict his entire goals and motivations by the end of this series if he didn't go for the Mist ending? Like, did you go for it or not? I'm so confused. He says in this interview he's gonna keep writing as if the ending is the same, right? So we get all the great moments, we get Eren freeing Ymir, we get everything great, and then the ending, literally chapters 138 and 139 are kind of left field. And it's like, what is this? So is that the point where he decided, no more the Mist? Chapter 137 is where he decided, no more the Mist. When did he decide that? But then if he did decide no more the Mist, why does Eren act in contrary ways? Answer, anybody? So what this is telling me is this ending is kind of a mix of the Mist, but a mix of Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, I don't know. I don't know what this ending is. It's a Marvel movie and The Mist and freaking Split. I just don't know what this ending is, and I don't know what he was going for. I don't even think he knows. He talks about the power corrupting Eren, okay? Is that not him going through with the rumbling? Without the power, he wouldn't do the rumbling, correct? Or is he trying to say that Ymir took over Eren's consciousness by this interview? Like, I'm at a loss for words. I don't know what he's saying here. I really don't. It's because it's all so convoluted now. The only thing that really makes sense to me here is the fact that, you know, we get, from the beginning, Eren is always fighting for freedom, always willing to stomp on those who try and impede on his freedom, right? So, of course, that would lead this kind of character to do the rumbling, because the rest of the world is now standing in the way of his freedom. So that does make us question, oh, what's right, what's wrong, da-da-da, because we see it's right when there's man-eating titans, right? Oh, and there's humans killing humans. Obviously, to protect yourself, you're gonna kill the person who's trying to kill you, right? So I do understand what he's saying there. Eren being the type of person who wouldn't let someone impede on his freedom, and then, you know, taking out the rest of the world where some people are completely innocent, will be just like his mom that day, like Historia said, yada yada yada. I do get that part. But the rest of that makes no sense. Is it the Mist or is it not? I really need him sat down in interview, and I need somebody, some interviewer, please ask Isayama what he meant by the Mist ending. Did he mean that during this rumbling, Eren's friends were going to get trampled? Is that what that meant? I need to hear his words, but hey, as we're gonna find out, his words don't even really matter either. Trying to figure out how this series was supposed to end by any Isayama interview past 2016 is like a dog chasing their tail. Never gonna catch it. You're gonna keep going in circles forever. And I just don't. You know, when somebody's intellectually vague, that's what we get 2016 and before. Now we just get vagueness and like contradictions. It just doesn't make sense. But anyways, let's press forward. While I was doing research, I stumbled across this on Quorum. And I just thought it was so funny because what is more traumatic than following a series for 11 years? Well, in my case, 9. Following a series for 9 years, only to have several unfinished plot lines, several things that just don't make sense by the way this series ends. What could be more traumatic than that? I would have rather graphically seen each and every character that I loved die, and have every plot line answered, every big question answered, every setup thing come to fruition, than the ending I got. But that's just me, though. You know, I don't watch a series for the characters. I don't watch a series... Well, okay, that's kind of a lie. I don't watch a series for a ship, or because, hey, this character's cute, or hey, I like this character a lot, da-da-da. I don't watch it just because of that. I watch a series for the plot points, the plot lines, the foreshadowing, everything. And most of that just didn't go anywhere. I included this interview summary because I thought it was, you know, a nice ha-ha to the anime onlys. Not anime onlys, the ending defenders, who proclaim that there was a significant love between Eren and Mikasa, a romantic one, the entire time. Isayama intended it, yada yada yada. The red scarf thing, which is a big deal in Japan, soulmates and the red string of fate and all that, was decided by the animators. That wasn't Isayama's decision. So, chew on that. And the second part of that just shows how influenced Isayama was by reviews. Like any artist, right? You look at your reviews, but he was especially worried about his reviews. But we'll get to that later, like I said, come on, let's keep going. Alright, so these... Pause, go ahead, read. I obviously included these because he in the recent interviews, he talks about real Eren, right? Whiny Eren, real Eren, right? Okay, now read this interview again, the summary. He says when Eren gets to the ocean, he gets his resolve again, right? This is where a lot of people who didn't originally like Eren fell in love with him because of this resolve, right? And then he goes on to say that, you know, he gets his resolve, his determination is renewed. And he talks about how Eren's suicidality leads to the character he becomes, you know, present. Chad Eren, I guess, right? But then in 2021, he'll go on to say that Chad Eren was never the real Eren. He was pretending the whole time. Whiny baby, crybaby Eren that personally I've never seen was the real Eren all along. And then it gets more boggling because he says later in this interview that up until he saw the ocean, Eren was a slave of the story. And then he alludes to the fact that now Eren's the one pulling the story along, right? Which was one of my favorite points in this fandom. 100%. Remember all the memes of, haha, Eren is controlling Isayama. Eren went back in time to make Zeke and Grisha do this, da-da-da, right? Eren is controlling me right now, ha ha ha, right? Eren just had such a strong resolve, and he was literally pulling the story along. Just to get in 2021 that Eren was a slave. He didn't know what he was doing. He's being controlled. Isayama really is just questioning all the readers' intelligence with that. Oh, real Eren, real whiny Eren is back. He's questioning, he's making us feel like dumbasses. He's gaslighting us for enjoying the character development that we watched up until now. To somehow put some water on the gasoline that's turning into a fire because of how terrible the ending was, right? Contrary to what this interview says, Eren never developed. No, he was always whiny Eren under his facade. His resolve was always dirt cheap. He had no resolve, no agency at all. He's being controlled by Ymir. He never made any choice ever. So now, in this moment, you're forced to decide who's lying here. 2018 Isayama or 2021 Isayama? Who's the real Eren? Does he have resolve or not? Does he know what he wants or not? Does he know anything at all? So this interview right here, very interesting. Again, they're all very interesting. It proclaims Isayama as a very good foreshadower. The interviewer himself says, you're very good at foreshadowing. And Isayama says, yeah, I took classes on that. So here we know, well, we have, quote, evidence that Isayama is good at foreshadowing. So then tell me why we have unexplored plot lines. We have plot lines that go absolutely nowhere. We have breadcrumbs leading to things people theorized perfect endings to that wrapped up every breadcrumb, every plot point, every plot line that he laid the bread trail out for. We have theories, a bunch of them, yet his ending did not close any of them. His ending left so many of them unexplored or half explored. But the problem is that they're developed and the foreshadowing is already there. So now it's just an empty point in the story and it leads nowhere and it stinks. And again, I have to say, what is more traumatic when reading a story than that? Realizing that you've been paying attention to all of these little threads and that they lead nowhere. And then, in the same interview, he goes on to say, ha 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 ha, just like in Game of Thrones, though, it's fine if all my foreshadowing leads nowhere. He straight up says this. Just like in Game of Thrones, it is fine, because I will still get the bag. He says Game of Thrones is a multi-million-dollar thing, yet still some of the plot lines led nowhere. That's the show, though. That's the show. So in this regard, sure, do that to the anime. Who cares? But why do you have the manga doing this? What? Thanks, though, Isayama. Thank you. So this is recent. I like how he addresses sexism in this, yet his story ends in the most sexist way possible, honestly. Especially when it comes to Ymir, Historia, Mikasa. So I like that he's aware of sexism. He understands what sexism is, and he gets it. Yet he still thought it would be cool to end the story this way. He thought there's nothing wrong with it. Awesome. I like how the interviewer basically says, "Hey, what happened to Eren in the last couple chapters is jarring. It's jarring." And Isayama glazes over the Eren and decides to take this as an opportunity to talk about Armin. What a red flag. Like, what? Excuse me, nobody said anything about Armin. We were talking about Eren. But I like how he glosses over that and goes straight to Armin. Like, imagine if I'm an interviewer and I bring up, like, Levi to you, and I'm like, yeah, so, at the end, Levi kind of gets a rough shake. He's in a wheelchair, but I'm glad he's alive. And you take that as the opportunity to be like, yeah, his uncle Kenny, knew his mother, and Kuchel would have loved what she saw in the ending. Kuchel would have loved, because Kuchel, however you say her name, she was a woman who she was soft and docile and loved her children no matter what. She'd be glad Levi's alive. Da-da-da. Like, what if he just went on a tirade about Kuchel? But anyways, let's just keep going. For someone who Isayama says carries the story, as you see in this interview, it's a little interesting that the person who carries the story doesn't understand why the final events of the story is happening, sits the whole final battle out. It's just, what? When confronted about his actions, doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't know why. Very unsatisfying. Eren's never-changing fighting spirit. It just sounds like a joke now, like what happened to whiny Eren. Like, why doesn't he talk about whiny Eren in interviews prior to 2021? Why don't we ever see or hear him talk about loving whiny Eren ever? We get freedom fighter, determined, goal-oriented Eren always talked about in interviews. Always. Never, ever has he mentioned a whiny Eren. Never do we get this mention of this alleged real Eren. But let's go on. Okay, so this is the same interview. I want you to pay attention to the last paragraph. I like how he says that even though various villains appear, I personally feel that being evil for no reason is lackluster. You should portray his or her timidity and confusion as well as the ambition only he or she possesses. Do your best to make others feel like this kind of person exists within me also. So, how does it make us relate to Eren, a villain, right, by the end of the story, if he doesn't know why he did the rumbling? And why does he turn from villain to sort of hero thing? Why does everyone forgive him at the end? I'm lost. He already explained his motivation. Hey, I'm doing this to save Paradis. So I'm confused as to anything that he says to the people, like, by themselves, like, within paths. Oh, Connie, by the way, I saved your mom. Oh, Armin, by the way, I love you, or whatever. I don't know, whatever he said to Armin. How does that make him the hero now? He already explained his motivation. And they still decided to stop him. So he is the villain. And he was supposed to go down as the villain. So I'm just a little confused. But anyways, let's keep going. This is the final part of the interview where he talks about how Historia basically, developed up, became a pretty good character. And I don't know, I guess he wasn't expecting himself to like her so much. And how he sees himself a bit in all of his characters, but especially Eren. And I just think that's interesting, considered how he did Eren and Historia by the end of the series. But just go ahead and read more on that if you want. Go back and pause it. Whatever. And this is a part of that interview and a part of another one where Isayama basically says that Krista has become his favorite character. Well, Historia, right? Again, weird how he'd do one of his favorite characters at the end of the series. So I lost the full screenshot of this, so I had to go to someone else's video and screenshot this. Hi, Anime Balls Deep. Yeah, so if Isayama really had full control in writing this ending, you forgot that's what this video is about, right? If he really had full control, why is he talking about how Mikasa is Eren's mother, annoying mom figure? And then all the stuff he says about siblings and whatnot and so on and so forth. Why? I don't get, if it was really Isayama who decided this ending, what the hell is he talking about here? What is he talking about? What is he into? And then there's this gem of an interview. Again, pause to read. Mikasa's growth involves her separating from Eren. We know this. He thinks it's pathetic for a female character to be tied down to a male character, and that to be her entire characterization. He knows all of this. He's aware of sexism. He said that they have a familial bond. So explain 139 to me then. How is whiny Eren crying over him not being able to bone Mikasa real Eren? We haven't seen anything like that this entire series. We haven't seen anything like that in the interviews until 2021. So can anyone explain that to me? Isayama himself can't even. Oh wait, look, he tries to. Remember him recontextualizing the manga, saying that in chapter 50, Eren and Mikasa were gonna kiss, but he was too shy to draw it. Yeah, I'm saving that for one of our other topics coming up. Go ahead and pause this. Thank you to Aaron_anime_manga for doing the hard work. But he pieced together they pieced together these interviews that contradict each other, like, so you can see it right on screen with each other. The contradictions. The ending was changed. Yet, they're going around saying it was all planned. It's been planned since way before. It's been planned since Isayama started writing. It's been planned since he got to Kodansha. But you have this very good visual seeing back to back the different statements, the contradicting statements. Then there's this, which I thought was interesting. I don't know where this is from, so I won't say too much about it, but if Isayama said this, which I'm guessing he did, there you go, Indian Defenders. We know what we're talking about. Isayama be confused, guys. He be very confused. This is the editor, guys. Again, pause, take a look. He said it was never changed. It was never changed. But we saw already, the first 30 minutes of this video, we saw Isayama going back and forth, saying it was planned, and saying it was changing, and saying you originally wanted The Mist, then he wanted Guardians of the Galaxy, then he wanted whatever. He said himself the ending was changed, but he was still going to write it as if it wasn't, which is why the ending is so jarring. He said that. Call us the speed readers, call us the idiots. Here's Kaji Yuki, the voice of Eren, confused on him and Mikasa's relationship. He didn't ever think Eren liked her romantically. The voice actor. Now, I'm just going to put a bunch of good points by Eren anime manga. Alright, so here we have bullet points of another interview. You know, the one where Isayama said that Attack on Titan is a superhero story. And then he goes on to say that the plot with Eren, Mikasa, and Armin had been planned out all along, but the whiny Eren just came to him, aha, one day, right? And he thought to himself, Eren is back. We already went over that. Ew. But you see how drastically different that is from the previous interviews where he talks about, yeah, Eren went to the ocean and he got his resolve back. Yeah, Eren is a character like me. Ooh, yeah, like, ooh, Eren just is so determined and he's so goal-oriented. And now we have this. Whiny Eren. Love that guy. And then just chapter 139, Eren in general, literally contradicts everything he's ever said. Especially this. This is so contradictory, it's nasty. Pause it. Now tell me that isn't exactly what Eren becomes. Was he lying for years in interviews, trolling us the entire time? Or did something happen? Right at the finish line, right when chapter 136 dropped. Did something happen? We're gonna talk about this more later, but come on, freaking chapter 50. Apparently there was supposed to be a kiss. Which again, how does that make Mikasa like Ymir? If her and Eren were a couple, how would that make her like Ymir? It's just so much stuff just doesn't make sense. I don't know what to say about this one exactly, but I like how they said there was a completely alternate path a character could take, yet the whole series was planned out. It was all planned out, but there was a whole alternate, different path a character could take, which would have changed the course of the ending. Yet it was all planned out. What? Yet Isayama was scrolling on Reddit, looking at reviews, yet Isayama didn't know if genocide would be portrayed the correct way. Shaking my head. Who wrote this? Who wrote this? Another thing I want to bring up is the fact that Isayama wanted Levi to die in the end, but the editor said, no, there'd be no meaning. How would there be no meaning when you have these, quote, Avengers going against a literal god? Humanity's strongest soldier dying in this moment would have meant so much. Again, this is something good I saw on Aaron Anime Manga's page. Just check it out. Pretty good. Again, big thanks to Aaron Anime Manga, previously known as the Aaron Yeager fan page until, he was retconned and whatever. So, yeah, just puts together all the contradictions, like, right there, right in your face. Very organized, and that's it for this section. Let's summarize what we went through here. Isayama went back and forth saying that the ending was planned, and then that there was another route he wanted to go. He went from a dark ending to something light. And then he also went from something that would betray the readers to something that wouldn't. The ending was always supposed to be sad, apparently, but it went from dark to not so dark, which isn't a problem. We could have done that with still tying up the loose ends, I believe. I believe there's still a way to do that with tying up the pre-established foreshadowing. We have his editors adamantly talking over him, saying that the ending was planned, the ending was planned, the ending was planned. We have him going back saying, hey, this is real Eren. He's recontextualizing the manga. He's saying, Mikasa and Eren were supposed to be doing this the whole time. So what's going on here? Did Isayama, did he do this? Or, nice lead into our next section, was it one of the editors? Or perhaps the animation team? Possibility 2. The editors wrote it. They influenced Isayama too much. Let me set the scene for you. Here's this new mangaka, right? Going to this big company, this big manga company, Kodansha. He has his whole story. He knows how he wants it to end. He knows what's going to happen. It's dark. It's new. It's disturbing. It's great. He meets his editors and such, and they get started. They get started on the program. It's picked up. It's turned into an anime. It's great. It blows up. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's cosplaying it. Everybody's buying it. It's blowing up, literally. As it's blowing up, so are the ships. Aramika being the top ship. Unless it was Arari. I don't know. Whatever. Aramika blows up as well. Obviously, people are people. People have their own ships. Some of the editors have their own favorite ships, too. Being people from Japan, they're more inclined to lean towards Aramika. Because Mikasa is Japanese. Well, Asian. Isayama's getting slammed online. He's getting some hate, as everybody does. Anybody in the public eye will go through hate. They'll get some hate. They'll get some backlash. He's getting a little of that. So he's kind of frantic. And he's kind of, should I actually do this? This ending is kind of dark. Okay, maybe I won't end it so dark then. Okay. So, being somebody who's that influential, his editors, hey, by the way, I like Aramika a lot. Could you, maybe have them do a little some, give us a little Aramika moment, could you do that? He was 20 when he started working there, so he was probably like, you know what? You guys paid me. You guys are the reason I got this big house and this wife. Yes, Aramika can have their moment. You're welcome. So there's this red flag of an interview. You have him saying, basically talking about how he tells Isayama to do this and that. He tells Isayama to do this. Go over this, go over that. He says he shares his 2 cents when Isayama gets stuck in where to go next. He says that he asks Isayama questions when he gets stuck. People who ask, really suggestive questions. Are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure that should happen there? Are you sure? And it's basically a manipulation tactic to make the person behave the way you want them to. I'm not saying that happened there, but I mean, something has to explain chapter 139. Something does. And Kawakubo is an Aramika shipper. Moving on from that, look towards the last paragraph of the second screenshot. He says, Isayama's a person who doesn't want to seem lame. He's very interested in seeming cool, right? He says all of that, right? So I could just see him in my head just like, hey, Isayama, I think it'd be pretty cool if you had a little Aramika moment right here. I just think you'd be super cool if you did that. If you feel like it, please read this entire interview. Please read this entire interview. Because out of nowhere, look at the last thing Kawakubo says. Out of nowhere, he says, I hope people will notice Mikasa's loveliness. What? This is obviously somebody who is really invested in the story. Well, not the story, but the character of Mikasa. So he couldn't let her get out of this series without having Eren basically say, yeah, I would wet my pants for Mikasa. I think that's all the evidence we need, honestly. Look at this red flag. The first rough draft of the last chapter I drew had the last page divided into about 5 panels, but I had the feeling that I couldn't quite get it right. At that time, the last page was a scene of the 3 of them, Iyame, running towards a hill. After meeting with the editor in charge, Kawakubo, and the others, I decided to change it in a hurry. And the result is the version that appeared in the May issue of the Busette Sonen, or whatever the fuck that's called, magazine. Okay. So the person who got last pick was Kawakubo. Interesting. Sounds like he's used to that. He immediately, once he got stuck, he knew where to go. I'll go to Kawakubo. He'll know what to do. He always has. When I get stuck, he always knows what to do. He always knows what to say. Which one should I use? Should I use the last panel that I promised them years ago? Well, no, the ending's different. I can't do that now. And I can just imagine Kawakubo like, hey, Mikasa's been so loyal to Eren all this time. I feel like you should just include a panel where, like, Eren says he loved Mikasa this whole time. You know, just to give back to her character a little. How about this? For Isayama, how the Seiyu portrayed their respective characters in Season 1 had a significant influence in how he wrote their dialogue in future manga chapters. That's kind of interesting. So he was very susceptible, very, very keen on listening to others, getting influence from others, even though his story was apparently planned from the get-go. It was all fleshed out from the beginning. Yet Season 1, the way the Seiyus were portraying the characters influenced how he made them talk and respond to each other from then on. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, by now, if you don't know that this ending was not planned, there's no hope for you. It was not planned whatsoever. Well, 139 wasn't. What the ending we got was not the planned ending. So far, I'm under the impression, based on the interviews we've seen thus far, Isayama went to Kodansha with his story fleshed out in bullet points, let's just say. He had 20 or so bullet points of what was going to happen in the story. He had the timeline all set. In other words, I think he had a planned ending, right? And that was the missed ending. So he gets to the studio, he starts drawing, whatever, it blows up. SNK blows up, the world loves it. Isayama freaks out. Oh no, here I am creating these characters, these lovable characters that all these people love. I have to do something else to the ending where these characters can live. So he creates a different ending in his head. He doesn't know how he's going to arrive there. But still, the story he has is so good that he's doing whatever he can to kind of follow his original plan, but just make it so at the end, the people somehow live. And what I'm thinking at this point in time is that that was the gist of Isayama's ideas. Where we go from there, where we go from the original 20 bullet points, right? And then he scratches off the last 3 bullet points and adds 3 new ones where the characters can all live. The rest, the fine details in between the bullet points, someone else was responsible for those. And in those last 3 bullet points, the changed ending, someone else was heavily involved of the making of those. He decided that he wanted an end where the Alliance won. Or where all of our favorite characters could live. Obviously, Eren had to die at the end of the series, regardless. So, I think he never arrived at an ending that would make that work, so he just left it up to someone else to decide. Maybe he read a bad theory. Maybe an editor gave him bad advice. Maybe, I don't know, he just let the characters character it out and see what happened. Take a look at these two interviews. I like how he talks about volumes 13 and 14 being some of the worst of his work, but look at why. You'll see in the first screenshot that it's because it got really low reviews from the manga readers, which I think is, some hopium copium for our final chapter, If he does in fact care about our opinion, he might pull some strings for the final part of the final season. I say the screenshots from this interview belong more in the did the fans write the story category, but we'll press on. And this is just a nice interview where he says Kaji Yuki's performance as Eren just really moved him to tears. This is that part of one of those interviews where they were asking about, Sasha, about Sasha's death. And Kawakubo states that, he asked one of his manipulative questions again, what's the point of Sasha dying here? Why? Why does Sasha need to die here? Just another example of the editor just kind of interfering with Isayama's vision. It is my personal opinion that I do actually think Sasha's death has a lot more meaning in the context of how she dies officially, instead of dying while trying to save the Kaya girl. I think she does have a little more meaning with her death. Well, she would have if the ending meant anything, right? Because Eren saying, I want all my friends to live long, happy lives. That being his end of the guidebook quote. Like that was his big goal the whole time. It kind of dilutes the meaning of that, Because this dude can see future paths. He knew Sasha was going to die then and there. Yet he wanted his friends at all costs to live long, happy lives. That's what the ending defenders will tell you. That's what Eren's guidebook quote will tell you. And then I find it funny how in this interview, he says, Kawakubo says, yeah, Eren's a freedom fighter. Not according to chapter 139. But what I took from the meaning of Sasha's official death was, hey, Eren let one of his dear precious friends die. This means that at all costs, at any cost, he is willing to get his freedom. Whatever it costs him. Sasha, Connie, John, Mikasa, whoever. If it's their time, it's their time. He's got a goal. He's got a mission. And then, 139 retcons all that, so whatever. He wanted his friends to live long, happy lives more than anything, and his whole plan was a plan to get the world to see them as superheroes, even though he didn't know they'd survive. Right. So get the world to see who is superheroes if they had all died then. Isayama contradicts himself, the ending contradicts itself, Eren contradicts himself. What has Attack on Titan become? Alright, you really have to read this one carefully. So, this is what I meant when earlier I referenced to Isayama being worried about how his series might depict genocide in a good light. But the only way it depicts genocide in a good light is if it says nothing about it at all. Okay? Or if it's just trauma porn, right? Or it's gore porn, right? The Boy in the Striped Pajamas is a perfect movie example depicting genocide, but in a way that has a message, right? The message of The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, Bruno dies. It could happen to anyone. It could have been anyone. You also get some, curses come home to roost type of thing. Here's this German general, and he runs this freaking death camp, and hey, his son ends up dying in this death camp. It's beautiful. It's perfectly written. It doesn't glorify anything, and it doesn't just depict the thing for trauma porn or violence porn. It says something. Hey, this could have been anyone. Hey, children are so innocent. This could have been your innocent child. Hey, curses come home to roost. What you release onto others comes back to you. We get all of those messages from The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. A movie about genocide. And then Sophie's Choice. Curses come home to roost. We get all of these good messages from these movies about genocide. I've never seen a show about genocide. But we get all of these good messages, right? What's the message with Attack on Titan? Genocide will happen. Period. Here's the interview again. Really pay attention to what he's saying. oh, just by depicting genocide, we're doing the world a favor. Just by it being featured in this, we're doing everyone a favor. It'll make people talk about genocide. And instead of having no opinion, now they'll have an opinion. Hey, we know genocide is bad. We're reading and watching a story to get Isayama's commentary on genocide. What is the moral? What do we get from this? Well, war is war, and war will always continue. No, we know this. That's real life. What is Isayama's take? So many people say they felt nothing when this series ended because there's no ending moral. Along with all the other problems, the absence of payoff, so on and so forth, the foreshadowing that led nowhere, etc., so on and so forth. I just want you to pay attention to the last thing he says. This is the talk I tried to convey to Isayama. Isayama was so worried, right? It keeps coming up over and over again. He was so worried about the public opinion. So worried. He goes to Kawakubo. Hey, this ending is sketch. This ending is sus and it's sketch, and I don't know about it. Why would he not know about his own original ending, right? I don't think he's talking about his own original ending here. I think the subtext to this interview is that Isayama is worried about the ending given to him, perhaps by the editor. Now, this is obviously my own headcanon, but what I'm imagining this conversation must have been like, that Kawakubo's describing here, is Isayama's like, hey, I think I should just end the series how I intended to. Eren will complete the genocide, as Grisha said he would. He would get his way. The genocide will be complete. And then, Eldians will be born free. So the consequence for the hatred of all those years of brewing, festering, living, breathing hatred is this. The hatred comes back to roost. The hatred comes back to roost, and the people who you subjugated for all these years, they won't take it anymore. They will not take it anymore. And an ending with free Eldians would depict their humanity instead of having a new fascist regime. It would depict the humanity of the group that had their humanity stripped away the entire series. We needed an ending where the Eldians were free, not in a fascist regime. World peace was the original ending of Attack on Titan after the genocide. And I don't think that glorifies genocide. I don't think anybody would assume that glorifies genocide. It's literally a curse coming home to roost. Whereas this 80% whatever is just confused devil follows Master Devil's plan. They were devils all along. These devils tried to commit a genocide, and now the devils were wiped out because the devils didn't complete the genocide. Racism is justified because they were devils the whole time. Every last victim is turned into the oppressor. But I guess the argument can be made that since the genocide was stopped and our main characters were so against it, it condemns genocide. Ha 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 ha. Okay, but it still kind of justifies racism because the group that received the hate for no reason ends up being wiped out. Eren doesn't know why he wanted to complete the rumbling. He just did. So he's just evil for no reason, which we saw in the beginning of the video. Isayama said he hates characters that are evil for no reason. It's just a mess. It really is. But we do have our third option here. Our third possibility of who is responsible for this terrible ending. Maybe the characters themselves wrote it. Now, this is the way that they teach you in English classes. Well, they taught me in English in college. In my writing classes, they teach you to write a list of your characters and flesh out their personality so well, put them in the plot, and allow them to write the story. That is how they teach in college to write stories. But then I feel like this would just not make any sense for Isayama at all because we have characters like Historia getting with her bully when she said she's going to live for herself. And when given the option to run away with Eren, whom she's fond of, or have a baby with this guy you don't know, or become the Beast Titan, those were her options. And she chose the least likely of the three for some reason, because she was willing to become the Beast Titan. So why would she choose the one that would use her energy, perhaps take her life? Okay, anyways, moving on. We have Eren, who, the character who's so sure of himself, he's characterized as always knowing what he wants. Even Historia says that. You always know what you want. She verbatim says that to him. We have him not knowing why he's doing the rumbling at the end when he's called out. We have Armin, the speaker of peace, in the final arc, only being concerned that Eren is being meanie-weenie to Mikasa. When he finally gets the chance to call him out, oh, you killed your mom? Whatever. You killed 80% of humanity? Whatever. Why did you say those mean things to Mikasa? Back on Eren, because I'm thinking about it, we have this character who learned this entire series that you can't always rely on your peers to help you. You can't always rely on even Squad Levi. They should have taken Annie out, right? When they had the chance. They were so capable. They were veterans. And they got killed so easily. You can't always rely on people. Eren learned that. Yet at the end of the series, oh, I leave it to you guys. You guys got it. I'll leave it to you guys. You guys will save the world. Annie, the girl who doesn't give a shit about anything but her father, is willing to risk her life during this rumbling to... what? I don't know. I thought she only cared about her father. So I would think she would go there, get her father, and run away with her Titan and get him to safety or something. But guess not. She really deeply cares about humanity now. So she's trying to stop Big Bad Eren. Mikasa, her character was barely getting the payoff, realizing that she'd been viewing Eren through rose-colored lenses the whole series. Once she finally realizes that, nope, immediately taken away. No, Eren loves me. I haven't been viewing him through rose-colored lenses. He's been madly in love with me the whole time. Excellent. Amazing. Anyways, enough of that. Let's look at some interviews. So, this interview... This interview sends me to fucking Mars. I like when he says... Well, the part I want you to pay attention to is the part when he says, when drawing SNK, I was hoping for Armin to come up with some solutions to stop the war, but I couldn't make it. Maybe I should have added some more pages to the ending part. Why is he looking to Armin for an answer? Like, did you create... Did you create Armin or not? Did you not create Armin? Did Armin create you? This has me so lost. Like, when he says stuff like this. Like, even earlier, we saw him say that in chapter 50, Mikasa probably wanted a kiss. What do you mean, probably? You wrote her. You know. You know what she wanted because she came from your head. So, when he says things like this, I'm like... Who wrote this story then? Like, what? I explained this in the beginning of this section, but in college we learn that, like in English, that when you're writing a story, if you write good enough characters, the characters will write the stories themselves, basically, right? But along with that, there is no uncertainty. There's no uncertainty. So, an author of a story might say, like, if I wrote Twilight, I'd say, yes, in this moment, Bella was feeling this. Bella decided to do this. Bella did do that. I made Bella do that, but I'm talking about from the story's point of view. Bella decided to do that from the story's point of view. Isayama, from the story's point of view, is saying that Armin couldn't come up with anything, and he was hoping he would. Okay, but you're the creator. So as the creator... If you wanted Armin to come up with a solution, you should have thought of one yourself and wrote it in there. If it's in character for Armin to come up with a solution, it should have been written into the story. I'm confused. Who wrote the story? Mikasa probably wanted a kiss? Well, sir, you wrote the story, you wrote Mikasa. Did she want a kiss or not? See, if you're speaking from the point of view of the character in the story, there should be no uncertainty because you wrote the character. In that moment, Mikasa wanted a kiss, but Eren did not want to give it to her. That's what he should have said. But no, that would have made it seem like Eren didn't like her, so he just tried to be vague. Mikasa probably wanted a kiss in that moment. Yeah. I wish Armin would have found a solution to war. Well, we wish you would have too. We wish you would have wrote your originally planned ending, so we wouldn't be feeling like fucking McGriddles right now. What the fuck? Like Isayama said so many times that these characters are extensions of him. These characters show sides of himself. So he wanted Armin to find a solution to war, but as Eren anime manga said, Isayama wrote himself into a corner and just couldn't find a way. When Armin's asking Eren, hey, find another way, that was probably Isayama trying to find another way for his damn self, but he couldn't. He could not. And in these interviews, Isayama says time and time again that he sees himself in Eren. The parts about himself that he doesn't like, he sees in Eren, right? So first of all, that's him admitting he doesn't like Eren as a character. He doesn't like Eren's character. And if we're going to try and be super meta big-brained about it, Isayama, through his own rumbling, which was Attack on Titan, 80% in. He gave up on the rumbling. Isayama gave up on writing a great story 80% in. And freaking us fans are asking him why. And he's saying, I don't know. Isayama equals Eren. Isayama is whiny Eren. That's real Isayama. Now we reach possibility number 4. Us fans wrote Attack on Titan. Isayama was too worried about fan opinions. We are to blame for chapter 139. Now, before we look at interviews, I do have a few comments on this. I do think we shoulder some of the responsibility. Not myself, because honestly, I was the main person. Anytime leaks would come out, I'd be like, everybody, relax. Wait till the chapter comes out. I know it's going to be great. I know the chapter's going to be amazing. Just wait until it comes out before you guys start your uproar. Like, at some point, Attack on Titan, the fandom got so toxic. Because the leaks would come out and people would be like, oh, this looks so dumb, da-da-da, and like, sending hates Isayama, sending death threats and everything, going crazy, and I'm like, dude. And then those same people, once the actual chapter came out, they were like, oh, wait. Never mind, this is good. Haha, oops, teehee, I'm so cute. It was like, no, you're dumb. The only time I ever acted like that was for these 139 leaks, because they were just too bad to believe they were real. And no matter what the context was, the leaks that came out were just terrible. So it didn't matter the context, which it did with the previous leaks. The 139 leaks were just so objectively terrible. But yeah, it was the fan uproars and backlash and strong shippers and stuff like that originally, you've seen throughout the whole video that Isayama gets really nervous when it comes to the fans, when it comes to what we'll think about this, when it comes to what the public will say about that. He gets really nervous and he gets really worried about our thoughts. So he tried to cater to us, or the loud people. And we saw that he was one to cater to his audience in the beginning when he said, oh, yeah, I wasn't expecting Attack on Titan to blow up so much, so instead of my missed ending, I'm going to give them an ending where everyone lives. Make it better for everyone so they won't hate me for killing their fave. So I remember when this interview came out and everybody was like, he did not say he regrets the ending. He said that he regrets that he wasn't able to perfectly execute the themes. Sis, that's regretting the ending. If you don't like how you did the ending and you regret doing it this way where the themes weren't great, weren't wrapped up, you regret the ending. Period. What? Isayama said that he regrets the ending. Period. But yeah, he was literally scouring the internet for opinions before he ended it. And I feel like that was one of his biggest mistakes. You're never, as George R.R. Martin says, you're never supposed to let the fan base influence you. And you should never change your original intended ending to subvert expectations, or just because somebody on Reddit figured you out. I really like when he talks about Game of Thrones, because he really did try. Like, in almost every way, he really did try to make this like Game of Thrones. We got the Jon Snow Daenerys love death at the end. We have the stupid genocide that amounted to nothing and meant nothing in the end. By the way, S&K ends. Like, Daenerys's genocide, well, not, I wouldn't say that's genocide, but Daenerys's massacre in King's Landing was always stupid. And it was just rage, right? It was just unfiltered rage and pent up anger. Aaron's genocide was a freaking stretch to try and achieve freedom, you know? It always had meaning. But Isayama somehow made that meaningless. I don't know how he did it. And what he says in this interview kind of contradicts everything we've seen this entire video. Yes, when he's drawing, he's expressing his feelings, but then he's asking for advice. He's receiving 2 cents from this person. He's looking online. He's thinking about the readers, what the readers want, instead of committing to his story that he wants to tell. He is looking at all of these outside forces, which I don't blame him. The fans are scary. People are crazy. Do you know how many death threats this guy gets? I don't blame him. Like, I get it. But he didn't owe us readers anything. What he owed was to his story. He owed everything to his story, to complete it, to wrap up all of the freaking breadcrumbs and plot lines that he foreshadowed, that he created, that he spent so much time developing. He owed that to his story, wrapping that up, not us. In that same grain, he doesn't owe us any fan service, any ship sailing, anything. He doesn't owe us, the fans, anything. He owes his story the conclusion that was set up. And that's all. That's it. Ultimately, that comes down to Arahisu. It does. There's no denying it. Arahisu was supposed to be endgame, and Historia and Ymir had something to do with the ending of the series. And since none of that happened, that's the reason why 139 reads so weirdly. That's the reason why no one is fulfilled by the ending. Because, as I've said and repeated over and over, the left unfinished plot lines and the unfinished, no payoff themes, you know? I already know what kind of comments I'm gonna get. People are gonna be like, sis, you're still talking about this? What? You're still talking about this? That's just how you know the ending was bad. If it's surprising that I'm still talking about it, you're telling on yourself that you think the ending is that bad that it should just be forgotten about, never talked about again. That's what you're saying if you comment, sis, we still on this? Yeah, we are. And we've seen this interview a lot of times before, right? He's been checking all over the internet, and at the end there, look at the last sentence, he really thought he could make everybody happy with the ending. His biggest mistake was ever trying to. So, believe it or not, I know this video is structured in a contradictory way, but hey, contradictions are in style right now. I would actually like you to form your own opinion, even though this video is filled with mine, and I don't know. I would like you to form your own opinion. But what I think happened here was, like I said, Isayama had his 20 bullet points, went into Kodansha, started writing, and, it blew up. So then he X'd out the last 3 bullet points, and he was like, okay, instead of these things happening, I'll have these things happen so everyone can live at the end. And then as time progressed, the fans' reactions to certain things, the editors whispering in his ear, I don't know what else, other influence, maybe his wife, I don't know, came together and altered both of his visions. I feel like he had 2 good visions of how the series could end. Both of them got interrupted, got influenced, and he got worried and scared about the fans and everything. And yeah, we pretty much get this very unsatisfying ending because of that, where we're forced to draw our own conclusions, or I don't even know. So the question that remains is is Isayama a good writer? What I would say is yes, obviously, He obviously retconned a lot of things in the story, but I do think it takes a certain level of skill to make the entire series meaningless after one chapter. And I don't know if you've been pausing and fully reading the interviews, but in one of the examples I used, he said that he doesn't want a 9-to-5 job ever again. And, money is obviously a big influence to what people do, especially when drawing is your livelihood, right? So, of course, there's sequel bait at the end, and I am expecting an Attack on Titan sequel. But, yeah, I personally lost my respect for Isayama. His duty is not to his fans, it's not to his editors, I guess, but it's to his story. I get it, money's sweet, money talks, and it's great, and everything, but the editors could have just fucked up the anime. Who cares? You didn't have to do the manga, which I wanted to buy, I can't buy that now. So I just lost my respect for him, I did. I'm gonna quote the Aaron Denialists here. They said that Isayama doesn't reward his readers for paying attention to the story. And I think that's really fair, and that sums up my frustration with him, honestly. And I wrote this down, so it's gonna sound like I'm reading, because I am. He said he doesn't like stories that do things like say war is bad. That is fair. Let the fans decide. But how does he like a story without a satisfying conclusion? One that wraps up all the foreshadowing. We know war is war is inevitable. That's why Aaron did the rumbling in the first place. Instead of staying true to the character motivations to complete the story, we get a cheap twist at the end that renders the whole series meaningless. This could not have been the ending Isayama thought of before writing. This ending justifies racism. It says it's justified and necessary, or else the subject of your racism will rise up and commit needless violence for no reason other than to let a devil watch your murder, I guess. This ending says that Aaron's only mistake was not completing the genocide, and the rest of the world's only mistake was not killing all Eldians sooner, which is also genocide. In conclusion, I just want to say, well, first of all, I want to say this since I just thought of it. He said he doesn't like shows or movies or whatever that says war is bad and stuff like that and tells the readers how to think. So why did he tell us that whiny Aaron is real Aaron? He's never said anything like that before. He's literally just trying to cover his, tracks and do damage control. Because everyone knows that thing at the end was not real Aaron at all. He knows that himself. He said so in interviews. And I just loved when the ending defenders were like, these people are really gonna argue with the author? Yes, we are. And guess what? We're gonna use his own words against him prior to this ending. But anyways, I just want to say in conclusion that Isayama contradicts himself so much over the years. He contradicted himself. He really let people take over the story. This story isn't even really his anymore. This story is everybody's. Anybody who influenced him, it's everybody's story. It's just as much as Isayama's as it's Kawakubo's. So to answer the question of who wrote the story, it was everyone. Everyone wrote this story. Everyone is to blame for the ending we got. Any person in the fandom who ever complained about any arc, it's your fault. Any editor that said, hey, I know you're kind of worried about what the fans are thinking. Maybe if you did it like this, while Isayama was in a vulnerable state, anybody who influenced him in any way to make him inconfident in his own story is responsible for 139. I don't claim any of that responsibility because I always trusted Isayama. But now I lost all of that. So just some final remarks. I am a part of the ANR team now. Thank you. Yes, I am a part of the Attack on Titan No Requiem team. So, I'm going to be working on that. And I think that's all I gotta say. Make sure you read the next installment of ANR. Make sure you wait out for the animation of ANR. I personally will be watching the last season of Attack on Titan. I will. I have to. My curiosity would kill me. I have to watch the last season. And since Isayama and the animators are known for chucking out bad parts, quote, bad parts of the manga and fixing them and revising them, and since Isayama does care about what us readers think, I think they will try and make it a little bit better, try and sell it to us better. So, cool, I guess. I do want to see that. So, with that being said, bye until next time. I'm out.